Hello, everyone. You're welcome to today's teaching. This is a series of Out of Religion into a Personal Walk with God. Today, we are looking at it. We are going to study about covenants. Covenants. We have good covenants. We have evil covenants. So, a lot of things that take place in our life, some of them are because of past covenants, which we may not have made directly. But just because we didn't make them ourselves, does not mean it won't be binding on us. So if we remain ignorant of it, it doesn't stop the problem from coming to us. So whether we know about it, whether we study it, whether we are ignorant, it doesn't stop it, because once the covenant is in place, it keeps occurring. So it's better for us to start learning about them. Some people still deny, there's no such thing as evil and all that. It's not important. It's not whether you believe it, you accept it. It doesn't stop it from occurring, like I said earlier. So let's delve right into it. I'll start by saying, God is not mocked. Whatever a man sows, that's what he shall reap. Whatever you do with your life, time will come when you give account of it. Human beings have chosen to involve themselves in all manner of ritualistic covenants, evil covenants, in a bid to satisfy their immediate needs, not knowing that one such singular action can put the people after them in trouble or enslave them into bondage. So just like the case of Abel, Cain. One single mistake Cain made. He killed his brother because Abel gave a better offering to God. He put him in trouble for the rest of his life. One singular act. The same thing with Esau and Jacob. Esau was hungry, Jacob was cooking. Just because he was hungry, Jacob was cooking. Esau was hungry. He couldn't endure the hunger. He was ready to sell his birthright for a bowl of food, bowl of meal. So that's how some of these things take place also, the same way. We are going to study some kind of covenants, evil covenants and good covenants. The covenants you make or you made, thinking it might just out of a bit of a particular situation, is something that could cause your generation after you so much to deal with, so much issues to deal with. I start by saying that a covenant is defining a covenant. A covenant is an agreement of mutual understanding between two or more parties, which is binding himself with an oath to fulfill specific obligations. A covenant could be between a man and a woman. In the case of David and Goliath, we're not going to read all the scriptures because we don't have too many time. So I would have read to us David and Jonathan, how they started their own friendship that led into a covenant, and they become bonded, whereby Jonathan tells David things concerning his own father when his father is about to kill him. Because of the friendship and the covenant with David, Jonathan was ready to revealing the father that he gave back to him. He was revealing the father's secrets to David, his friend. We're not going to read the Bible passages in Samuel, 1 Samuel 18, 1-4. We're not going to read it to save time. There's also the marriage covenant between a man and a woman. A covenant could be also between a man, a human being, and God Almighty. It can also be between, just like Abraham and God. A covenant can also be between a human being and God, the little God, or demonic demons. But they serve a bigger God, whom are called deities or gods. So we are going to read one of such covenants, or we'll read it later. On the other hand, these are general covenants I just described. There are also an evil covenant, which could be between a man, like a demon. This demon-possessed man, these people representing Satan, they have different names. They call them according to the nation. Note that the God here is a small g of God. They are represented by men. You're not going to see a spirit. It's just they have fetish priests that serve them, but they are Satan reps. So they are fetish priests, which different nation give different name. Also, the person entering into this type of covenant may not know that this covenant will be generational, as I said earlier, which means it is not going to end with him. It's going to follow his unborn children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. What am I explaining here? A man may be sick unto death, or the daughter may be sick unto death, or a son may be sick unto death. The man would take his son or his daughter that was sick and go to a deity, say, please, give life to this my son. He's my only son. I don't want him to die. The son will go to the man will take his son to the deity, and the deity will say, I'm going to protect your son from dying. So in whatever transaction they are doing, the deity will say, okay, give this for me, slaughter a goat for me, do this for me, bring goats for me, in exchange that I'm going to protect your son. Now, what I'm saying is that true, the son may live at the time you are making that covenant. But what this man does not know is that he has enslaved not just his son, but the people that the son will give back to, up to the third and fourth generation, because of that singular act of going to a deity to ask for protection for his son's ill health. That's what I'm trying to explain. And that son you've handed over to a deity to protect for you, you don't know the transaction that took place. Because this is not God. God have good things. This is Satan. He doesn't have a good thing. This deity represents Satan. There's no good thing he has. So he's going to use all the wickedness of Satan to deceive you, deception. The only thing you bargain for is not what you're going to get. You say, restore my son to life. Give my son, let my son not die. I'm going to give you a goat. It doesn't end like that. The demon is not obligated to you to keep the word. Even if he says giving you life, that your son will live, will not die, and you are giving a goat, it didn't end in goat, that thing you gave. It's going to enslave the rest of the people behind that guy, behind that boy. So that's what I'm trying to explain, that it's not just the transaction you think you come to do, it will continue. Because it doesn't owe you an obligation to be sincere to you. It cannot be sincere to you because it's not God. So this is what we are saying. That part of covenant is known as the evil covenant. A covenant can also be good. A covenant can be good depending on the parties involved. The first covenant I mentioned was bad because it involved man and deity. The little later God. But example of a good covenant can be seen between David and Jonathan, between God and Noah, between God and Abraham. So we are going to read some of the example of the good covenant. Let me give another example of an evil covenant. Evil covenant can also be when a man enters into a business with an occultic man. I mean, you're doing business, that could be indirect. You're doing business, you don't know that the person you're doing business is serving Satan. You don't know, it's indirectly. And you go there, the man give you goods, you sell, you become business partners. But because his loyalty is to Satan, you have unknowingly entered part of their deal. As the man give you the goods, you go and sell. You might not see the returns you might not see the prosperity you expect, because the person's money have allegiance to Satan. So it's an indirect way of enslaving yourself without knowing. That's why, as a child of God, we should always ask God to guide us in kind of people we are going to do business with. Somebody you see wearing suit, dressing good, it's not order, it's the man. You don't know the God he serves. So when you enter into business with the man, you don't know whether the man have entered the business transaction with Satan also. He have dedicated his whole income or whatever he does, his prosperity to Satan. So you are not taking good from him. You can also be enslaved too by that transaction. Also, we look at people that when you rent house, if the house you are renting is owned by an occultic agent, occultic man, I don't think there's any good thing that will come out of that house. Some people, they enter into some houses doing very good on their own house, having several cars. By the time they come out of that house, they are wretched. Because you're taking your money and give to somebody that is serving Satan. Your money will not going to multiply, it will diminish. He has no good thing to give to you. So as a child of God, be careful what you do. Most transactions you should do should always be involve God. Ask God, is this house okay? Is it free? Can I rent it or can I do this? Don't just live blindly. That you're living blindly, living ignorantly does not solve the problem. If a covenant is upon that house and you start living there, it will affect you. So let's take our life a little more serious because the life belongs to us. The same thing with a marriage relationship, with a possessed man or woman. A woman that is serving Satan or is serving Mama's spirit or is a witch, you married her. There's nothing good that will come out of that relationship. You can't enjoy it. So we should be careful in those critical choices of life. We should put it to God. I don't think if it take you 1 week or several days to fast, to seek the face of God, God is not going to open his eyes and watch you enter into fire. He's going to speak to you. So let's be careful of the kind of relationship we get ourselves involved with. we are going to read. No, we are going to read the scripture concerning a good covenant, a covenant that's between God and Abraham. And I'm going to read Genesis chapter 15, 8 to 14. Genesis chapter 15. Genesis chapter 15. Genesis chapter 15, verses 8 to 14. Then I read, but Abraham said, Sovereign God, how can I know that I will gain possession of it? In this place, let me give us a little recount so that we don't go far. Here is between God and Abraham. God was promising Abraham, I'm going to make you prosperous. I'm going to give you children. I'm going to make you possess the land. And so Abraham was asking God, how can I? I don't even have a child. You're telling me that my children will be as many as the seashore. Or how can that be? So God asked him to believe what he's telling him. That Abraham asked God, are you going to use my servant, my head servant, to be my son, to bless me from there? God said, no, I'm going to give you a child that is from your own wife. So Abraham was asking God. So let me read it for us. Asking God, how can this thing be when I don't even have my own child? So God is saying, he also said to him, I am the Lord who brought you out of land of Ur and Chaldeans to give you this land, to take possession of it. So God is saying, I brought you out of wherever you're living before to come and take possession of this land. So I'm God. But Abraham says, Sovereign Lord, how can I know that I will gain possession of it? So Abraham is saying, how do I know that what you're saying will happen to me? How can I take possession of this land? Verse 9 says, so the Lord said to him, bring me a heifer, a goat, and a ram, each 3 years old, along with a dove and a young pigeon. So I'm trying to give us an example of what a covenant is. When Abraham said, God, how do I know that I can take possession of this land you're asking me to do? I am just one man. These people are mighty, could look mightier than I. So God is trying to establish a covenant between himself and Abraham. So God said, bring me a goat, a ram. Mention the thing he wants Abraham to bring. Just like I said earlier, most time there is an exchange of animals or gifts or some things, and a pigeon. These are the things God listed for Abraham to bring. Abraham brought all this to him, cut them in two, and arranged the halves opposite each other. The balls, however, he did not cut in half. Then birds of prey came down on the carcass, but Abraham drove them away. As the sun was setting, Abraham fell into a deep sleep, and a thick and dreadful darkness came over him. Then the Lord said to him, know for certain that for 400 years your descendants will be strangers in a country, not their own, and that they will be enslaved and mistreated. But I will punish the nation that serve them, use them as slaves, and afterward they will come out with great possession. You, however, will go to your ancestors in peace and be buried at a good old age. So, what are we saying there? God told Abraham what to do. Bring this, bring this, bring this. When he finished bringing them, he set up the sacrifice. When he set up the sacrifice, God caused Abraham to fall into a sleep, because God didn't want Abraham to watch and see if God's presence is coming to rip up the sacrifice. The scripture said that God caused Abraham to sleep off. So he said a thick, dreadful darkness came over him. So, and the sacrifices Abraham placed, God was able to consume it without Abraham seeing him. So this is an example of a sacrifice between man and big God, not a small God. So God told Abraham the things to breathe. He set it up, and God passed through that covenant, passed through those things he sacrificed and consumed it and accepted, and which means that the sacrifice is accepted. This is an example of how a good covenant is done. We can see that there is change of things. God said, this is what I will do for you. I'm going to give you this nation. I'm going to make you rich. I'm going to do this. In exchange, God asked Abraham, bring this for me, bring this for me. So this is an example of a covenant. So we are going to also read another kind of covenant. It is noteworthy. It is worthy to know that just like curses, evil covenants are enforced by demon spirit. So what am I saying here? The covenant here is a good one. That is why it is blessings are promised. What God promised Abraham is blessings. Blessings, I'm going to give you this land, I'm going to give you a child. Your children will be more than a seashore. Now, what I want to tell us here now is, it was an evil covenant. Evil, Satan have nothing to give you. So what's in place of those blessings, it will be curses. When you enter such covenant with Satan and you're doing evil covenant, when that's after sacrificing the bull, just the way Abraham sacrificed the ram, the bull, and the goats, when you do that to a little god, the deity, instead of blessings which God rained down on Abraham, what will befall you is curses. At the face value, you might see that, oh, you think something is going for you. No. It's just with a little, just like you pick up, it may seem that he gives you something, but behind it, what you're getting is curses, because that's what Satan have. Evil does not have blessings to give. What they have is evil. So when you are doing certain things, you think you are going to protect your son that was sick, or you wanted to make some money, let me go to them to give me riches. Just as God rendered so much blessings on Abraham, it is curses. The first value might seem as if there's a blessing. Okay, you want the business contract. Okay, whatever you place at that time, you think you get it. But after that, there's a lot of hidden things that you don't know, which are nothing but curses. So this is just an introduction to this topic. We can't finish it for this time. We're going to continue next week. We're going to read also to see example of more covenants between God and man, and to see how these covenants, what did he bring to them. Like the case of Abraham, we see that Jesus Christ eventually came out from the seed of Abraham, and that's the whole nation is blessed. Now, but if this covenant is made through Satan, what are we going to see? Curses, destruction, famine, late marriages, so people committing suicide, because that is what Satan have. So these covenants, we should be careful. People that make them, they should not be taking them as a face value. When they say, okay, we'll do this, we'll make you rich, do this, what's happened after that immediate person? The rest, what's happened to them? We should be careful these things we do. Just because we don't believe them, just because we are ignorant of them, doesn't mean that they're not going to work against us. So we are going to stop here for now, but next week we're going to continue because it's a long teaching. So thank you. Be careful the kind of covenants you make. When somebody says, I will take me to such a place, I will show you. Be careful. If the Spirit of God is not working with a person, be a prophet, no matter the name, sometimes they change the name. Children of God, their head is called a prophet. Sometimes standing people, they also call their own prophet. Be careful who is the head. The spirit behind the prophet you're going to see. Is this the Spirit of God or the Spirit of Satan? If it's not the Spirit of God, whatever you are seeing cannot be blessings, it's curses. We're going to end now for today. Thank you for listening. We'll continue the topic next week.